This is class 1 for Art 154 3D computer graphics. Before we open 3D Max, we have to download it. So if you open up an internet browser and go to students.autodesk.com, you can download a free educational version. This is the only place you should download it. Don't go to the main Autodesk site and download a trial version, because if you do that, it'll be good for 30 days, and then you basically won't be able to use Max for the rest of the semester. The educational version lasts, I believe, 13 months. So you're going to have to create a student account. It's easy enough. And you'll see there's a bunch of different links. The only one you really want to worry about, as you can see here, download, get your free Autodesk software. So you can hit the free software link. And you'll have to get a minute because it kind of builds a database. I think with mine it just records all the different software I've already downloaded. So while we're waiting for that, the version we're going to use is Autodesk 3ds Max, and the version we're going to use is 2013. You'll want to use English, and then as far as your operating system, it either has to be on Windows 64 or Windows 32. I have had people every semester who have Macs and they use Parallels, and it seems to work fine. We get a couple glitches here and there, but for the most part it's fine. So you just do next and download it. Now there is also an Autodesk 3D Max Design. They're basically the same product. There's like one or two things that are different. So if you see them, if for some reason you accidentally do this one, it's not going to be a problem. But generally, when it comes to updates and things, I'll be using the Autodesk 3ds Max 2013. And also be aware the version in the book is old, so you don't want to use that at all. Okay, so once you have this downloaded and installed, you have an icon on your desktop. Here's mine. I have a Windows 7 64-bit build. So if I go to Launch, double click, and the first time you do it, it'll actually prompt you for a serial number. I've taken care of that, and that actually will require you to register yet another time with Autodesk. So you have to register once for the student and once for the actual software to get it to work. And the first thing you'll get is you'll get a basic screen, welcome screen. There are some links for some different animations. It's available online. You can create new scenes. And in the lower left, you'll see there's an option, show this welcome screen at startup. If you check it, you can disable it, and then you can hit close. The other thing, a couple things I want you to do to build up the workspace before we do anything else is you'll see these wheels. They call them wheels, or navigation cubes. If you right-click, you'll see there's an option for Configure. And what we want to do is we want to go to View Cube, and we want to turn off Show the View Cube. And we just want to make sure that that is off. And now if I hit Apply, okay, you'll see that little navigation widget is wrong. The reason we don't want to do that is if you have to click here and then click your object and then click back and forth, it's very inefficient. We'll look at other ways that we can do it. The other area that we can do stuff is we're going to go to Customize, and we're going to go into Preferences, and just breathe when this opens. There's a lot of stuff. The big thing we want to do is we want to increase the number of undos to 100. Actually, let's see if we can go higher than that. Let's try 500. Okay, so I have 500 undos as opposed to 20, so I'd recommend everyone doing that. If you go to the next tab, which is Files, you'll see down the lower left-hand corner there's a thing for Auto Backup Enable. Now, this isn't a problem on my machine, but if you're working on a school computer, this can become an issue, because what will happen is every time it does a backup, it will automatically write a file to your account, and you only have I believe it's 100 megabytes, or might be less than that, on your H drive, which is where it'll save it to. So generally, it's up to you. If you turn it off, you better remember to save every so often. The other thing you could do is you could enable it, and you could say, I only want to do one backup file, and I want to do it every, I don't know, 15 minutes. That would be a recommendation. I usually just do it automatically every 15 minutes anyway. So that's the other option. And then once you're done with that, you can hit OK and close out. So we're going to open the Lego file, and you need to go on to Angel to download that. So let's go. You probably have it already, but just to go over the steps real quick. So I want to do my AACC login, DM Snyder 4, and hit login. And then I want to basically go virtual campus and Art 154, content, assignments, getting started. And here you'll see there's a resources folder. This is the one we want to download. So I'm going to click it one time and then click it again. Now if you open it, what it's going to do is it's going to save the file in a temporary space, and when you go to save it, you won't be able to do anything because it's actually unzipping, which is a compression. So it's opening the compression of the file, then trying to write it in a virtual environment, and then there's nowhere to save it. So what I'd recommend people doing as far as best practices is to do save as and locate a place to save it. I usually just plunk it on the desktop. The only problem with that on the student machines is if your computer crashes, you lose everything on your desktop. So what you might want to do is each computer has a D drive. You might just want to save it on the D drive instead. Okay, so I have that downloaded, so I'm done here for the second. Okay, so let's go to the top of the D drive, and you can see here the file. Now if I double click, it'll open up or unzip. You'll see this is still a single file, and it'll show me what's inside the file, and I can go double click and open this file this way. Problem with that is this is still contained within a zip file, so when you go to save, you can get some errors. So the two options you can do, the one option that people like to do is just drag the file out of the zip folder, and then you have it isolated and it's by itself. Or the other option that you can do is to go back up, is to right click, and you should have something like extract all. I have 7-zip installed, which is a free program. It's kind of like WinZip, but it's free. And I'll just do extract to the file, the folder name, and I'll extract it, and now I double click and I go in and I open up, and there's my file. So that's pretty easy. Now I already have Max open, so the one thing I don't want to do is double click this because it'll launch Max open. You only want one instance of Max open at a time. You don't want multiple because it's really intensive on your graphics card, and you're really going to increase the odds of crashing your computer if you have more than one instance open. So I can go into Max and I can do open, and what it's going to default to is it's going to default to a folder in my documents, 3D Max scenes. This is your default directory. And what you can do, and this is handy when you're using a USB drive, is you can actually go in and you can set up, you can go to manage and set project folder, and you can tell 3D Max where to go. So right now, when you install it on a computer, it'll be different on the school computers. When you're on, you'll get this 3D Max folder. But if for some reason I wanted to set somewhere else, I could go, like right now I have everything on the D drive, so I can say, you know what, I want D drive to be my folder, and hit OK. When it does that, it'll create a 3D Max folder, and it'll have a bunch of subfolders in it. So it's up to you. We're only going to be working with a couple files, so it's not a big problem, but if we got into larger projects or working with at a company, you would want to keep that in mind. So let's go open, and I will go to the desktop and go to my D drive and resources, and I will go and open up this file. Now you're going to get a warning message. This happens because the color space of the file is different than the newer version. Just don't worry about it. Do you want to? You can hit yes or no. It's not going to make a difference. Okay, so now we have everything set up, and by default you have a single viewport that's in perspective. You'll see one single piece of Lego. So we've disabled the view cube, so now we have to figure out how to actually move things around. And let's start with the middle mouse button. So if you do the middle mouse button, you can scroll in and you can scroll out. So you'll see that you have some different options. If you basically hold down the middle mouse button, you can pan. And then in the perspective viewport, you'll see this is the perspective viewport. If you hold down the Alt key, you can rotate the viewport. So zoom, scroll the middle mouse button, moves in and out. Hold down the middle mouse button, pans or moves around. And then holding down the Alt key plus the middle mouse button causes the image to rotate around. Now that's the basics. Now right now I only have what's called a viewport, that's perspective, and usually what people like to have is they like to have 4. So if I go down the lower right hand corner, you'll see there's an option for maximize viewport toggle. And if I click that once, now you'll see that I actually have a front view, a top view, and a left view. These are 2D views, are called orthographics, and you can do the same thing of if you select one and you click it, you see how now it's highlighted. I'll hit here, now this is yellow. If I zoom in and zoom out with the middle mouse button, I get the same results. You'll see there's actually a grid as well that shows up, which we'll be using in order to move the Lego pieces around so they snap properly. If I hold down the middle mouse button, I can use it in all the viewports as well. Now the one you don't want to use is if you hold down Alt and you go to rotate, all of a sudden I've rotated this and now it's an orthographic viewport. And if I go to move something in this viewport, I don't really know what's happening. So the rule is we always want to move things in the 2D viewports, and the only thing we really want to use the 3D for is to actually see what our result is. So this is your preview, if you will, and this is the workspaces. Now this says orthographic, so if we click it with the click the orthographic, we can go back to front, and now we're reset and we have our different views. Now there's some other options down here. The one option you can see is there's a pan and a couple other items, but for the most part the one we're really going to use is basically maximize zoom toggle. So you select any viewport you want and you click it, and now that becomes the major viewport. Click it again, highlight another one and click it, and now that becomes the dominant viewport. Okay, so that gives us some basic things to look at. Now when selecting, there's a couple of different ways to select an object. Let's just do the perspective. You can also use it as a way to select as well. Now the one thing I can do is I can click with the left mouse button, and you see every time I click with the left mouse button it highlights a single piece. Now if I go to select another item, it gets deselected. So the rule is when you click the left mouse button, it only allows you to do one unless you add a modifier. Now there's a couple different modifiers that you can use to add to your selection. If we hold down the control key, and it's not the shift like in Adobe products, it's control key, which takes you a little bit to get used to, and you hold it down, you can add more items to your scene. And if you happen to click something more than one time, you can't deselect it. However, if you hit Alt and you click something, then it deselects. If you don't hit Alt and you click the left mouse button, it's going to deselect everything in just that one item. So to select a single item, hold down the left mouse button, click, hold down the control adds to that selection, and holding down the Alt key gets rid of it. So you probably just want to experiment and see if you can do something basic like that. Now there's also a way that you can draw out using a selection box. If I hold down the left mouse button, you see I can select a collection of items, and then if I hold down Alt, I can remove certain items from that. So that's something that'll take a week or two to get used to, but once you get used to it, it makes life a lot easier to work with. Okay, so the next thing we want to look at is actually moving around. So we're going to maximize the viewports, and we'll go back to the front. And what I'd like to do, the first thing I'll do before anything else, is I want to learn how to copy the pieces. The requirement for this assignment is a little different than future assignments, but what you want to do is you want to be able to have your original Lego pieces exactly where they are and only copy stuff. And we'll go over this and also in class as well. But that's what you want to be able to have for the final item. But before we do anything, we want to look at how we actually move things around and how we actually